What is up, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how I made these Survivor themed puzzles for my sister's bachelorette party. We're wasting no time. We are jumping right into picking up the supplies for this project. I ended up picking up 2-inch styrofoam. That is the thickest I could get at my hardware store. If you're able to get thicker, definitely do that. I made sure that when I gave the decal over to the printing company, it would fit on this size of styrofoam because I did not want to piece my styrofoam together. I'm making 3 puzzles, so I grabbed 6 pieces of styrofoam total. Once you get your styrofoam insulation, you also want to make sure you grab some glue. I chose to go with PL 300. I'm getting ready to build our puzzle. Got styrofoam insulation, and that's going to be the base of our puzzle and what the puzzle pieces are made out of. So that's what we're going to work on right now. We are going to glue our vinyl to the styrofoam, and we are using PL 300 for this. You have to make sure adhesive that isn't going to melt styrofoam, otherwise you're going to put it on your styrofoam and it's all going to disintegrate, and you don't want that. Okay, I'm going to start by putting this PL 300 all over the styrofoam board, and then once that's on, we're going to glue the vinyl to it. I'm putting this everywhere, but then I'm going to spread it out. Now I'm just going to take a piece of wood and just spread this out smoothly. And the reason we're spreading it out is so that we have more of that glue touching our vinyl decal when we put it on. I'm a little worried about this part, but we're going to try our best. I'm just kind of adjusting this. It sucks it's a windy day, because it's making it a lot harder. This is perfect. Now I'm just rubbing it on. It probably would have been better if I could get this as a sticker instead of vinyl, but this is working out really good, I think. It's so windy that I had to put some wood down so this wouldn't keep flying up, but this is what it's looking like. I actually ended up taking a rolling pin and we rolled this out, and it worked really well. I'm taking an alpha knife and I'm going to cut around these edges and into my foam. I'm too scared to use a jigsaw because I don't want it to ruin my vinyl. So I'm just slowly going to go around and do that. If I was restarting this project from the beginning, I would cut out my sign first and then I would glue it on the styrofoam, just because then you're not wasting a ton of that PL 300 adhesive. Now we just need to do this 2 more times. Very windy today, so it is not ideal conditions to make this puzzle, but I'm running out of time, so I need to do it today. The wind was so bad, I literally had to call for help, so my grandparents came over and helped me with this part of the puzzle. It was just the wild, wild west out here, and I just could not do it myself. My plan of action, because we always learn from our mistakes, is that I'm going to just do a ton of glue in the middle here. Roll the vinyl on, then I will trim the vinyl, and then I'll go into the edges with the glue instead. I think that's going to work better. When it looks like there's a bunch of caca poo everywhere from birds or something, you can roll your decal on. And just like the last time, we are going to spread out that adhesive so that it is covering more surface on our vinyl when we put it on. And I had my little helper do this part for me. And if you are blessed enough not to have a windy day, you can 100% do this entire project on your own. But because of how strong the wind was, I needed someone else to hold that decal down on the opposite side because it kept flying up and the adhesive kept getting everywhere, and you don't want to ruin your puzzle front. It's the star of the show, and even if you get adhesive on and you try wiping it off, it does not come off that great. So if you have an extra hand around, get them to help you put that on if you have a windier day. This is what it's looking like. My grandma's rolling it out with our professional tools, but it's looking really good. I'm going to go around now with an alpha knife and cut the excess of this vinyl. Got the excess vinyl cut off now. Now I'm gonna go around and lift the edges, put that PL 300 under there, and then smooth it out. I found this worked a lot better than what I did with the first one. 2 down, 1 to go. Let's do this last one. And I'm sure you're like, Alex, why don't you cut the decal and then cut the styrofoam and then glue them together instead of doing all these extra steps that you're doing? Hear me out. You are doing 2 cuts, so on the vinyl and the styrofoam, and then you're putting them together. They are never going to match up perfectly, even if you trace it. And to get a cleaner look, I felt like putting the vinyl on first and gluing it, and then cutting my styrofoam with a jigsaw later around the decal would look so much more clean and precise. And that's just my opinion. You 100% don't need to follow what I'm doing to a T. That's why I love making these videos, because you can kind of pick and choose what part of the process you think worked really well and what didn't. And I also try to share my thoughts and opinions on the process that I did to help you guys do it better. Also, it was so fun having my grandparents here helping with this project. They loved helping and they were pumping my tires the whole time I was building this. And it was just a huge boost in confidence. It was just fun having them there, and it was a great way to spend some quality time with them too. So if your grandparents are in your area, call them up, ask them to come over and help you with this. The third one is now done. I'm going to put this in the house now, let it dry, and then after that we are going to take a jigsaw and cut out the outline. I put a test strip of vinyl here because I want to see how it reacts with the jigsaw. I'm scared it's going to rip it to shreds, so that's why I did that, and I'll keep you guys posted. Now I am going to go around with the jigsaw and cut out this sign. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to wait 24 hours, so this glue, the adhesive is still a little bit wet, but I'm going to try not to hit the sign and just cut this out. Then I'll leave it overnight to dry in the house. I just don't have a ton of room in the house right now, so it'll be good to kind of get these a little smaller. Let's talk jigsaw blades. I just used the blade that was already in my jigsaw for this part of the puzzle, and it was actually one with pretty big teeth on it. And I wasn't too worried about what blade I was using because I wasn't planning on touching the vinyl at all while I was doing this cut. Can't tell that great, but I'm not touching the vinyl at all here. I am just outlining it around the jigsaw. And you're going to want a different blade when we actually go in to cut the puzzle, but we'll get to that later. And look how good this looks so far. Chef's kiss. We got 1 cut. Now we just have 2 more to go, so let's do it. Any extra styrofoam that is coming off of your puzzle, keep that for later because that is what we're going to build the base of our puzzle on. So the big frame that we are going to be able to build our puzzle with vertically. It's also just a really good way not to be super wasteful with this project by using those extra pieces and not buying brand new ones to essentially make the exact same cuts anyways. When you're done cutting all the styrofoam, it's gonna look like there was a snowstorm of dandruff that hit you. Good morning. Today is the day I shit my pants because I need to cut this puzzle. I am terrified that I'm going to ruin the vinyl, but we'll see what happens. First, I'm going to start with cutting a base. And this base is going to be what holds our puzzle in place vertically. And this is when our extra pieces of styrofoam come into play because remember, we bought 6 pieces total. Put my giant piece of vinyl on top here, and I'm just going to trace it out with a Sharpie. And then we're going to cut that out, and we need to do that 3 times because we have 3 puzzles. I did not put that decal right in the middle of that extra styrofoam piece we have. I put it approximately 3 to 4 inches from the base of the styrofoam and then traced my line. And I'm going to blame this brain fart on it being first thing in the morning because I have no idea what I was thinking here. Screwed up. This was not supposed to be cut in half. So that's really annoying. I'm gonna have to glue this back together. I don't really know what I was thinking. This is supposed to be one piece. Anyways. I was beyond mad at myself for screwing up that last cut. You have no idea. And first thing in the morning, like, are you kidding me? This is what your base should actually look like. Don't cut it into 2 pieces like I did. That is the first step of our base. The reason I traced and cut all these pieces before cutting the puzzle is because it's going to be near impossible to make sure you have the right curve after you cut your puzzle pieces. So I made these cuts first thing in the morning, and then I jumped back into creating my puzzle pieces. There is no rhyme or reason for the shapes I did on this puzzle. I was just trying to be creative and make different curves and whatnot throughout. I had someone on my Instagram point out that the different puzzles didn't have the same pieces, and how was that fair if people were competing? I actually did this intentionally because teams were going to be building these puzzles side by side, and I didn't want a team looking over and seeing what shape went where. So that is why all my pieces are different, but I did make sure that each team had the same number of puzzle pieces. So you're going to have to count that out when you are drawing all your lines. Just to make sure these cuts are easier with the jigsaw, I went in with an alpha knife and cut all the vinyl on the lines I made. And I'm hoping that'll help not destroy the vinyl with the jigsaw. This is a closer look at the blades I used. So this is the blade I used when I first cut the puzzle to begin with, when I cut it in a big oval. And this is the blade I went in with when I started cutting the actual puzzle. You can see the teeth are so much smaller than this one. A blade like this would absolutely destroy your puzzle and the vinyl on top. So you have to go in with a very fine one where the teeth are just little babies. I'm going to start cutting this. I put a blade on where the tongues and grooves aren't super deep, hoping it's not going to tear this apart. I'm going to go full speed so it's not choppy, and yeah, wish me luck. You guys, it worked. It looks really good. It's not seamless for sure. I'm gonna have to touch it up with some Mod Podge, but it looks so good. I've been stressing about cutting these pieces, so this feels really good. When I say I'm going to touch it up with Mod Podge, I just mean that some of the corners of the puzzle pieces were lifting up. So that was my plan, to go in with Mod Podge and touch it up. I ended up doing this way later on and I didn't film it, but the Mod Podge actually didn't stick that well. So I went back in with that PL 300 and just stuck that under the corners. Now let's talk more specific tips and tricks for this puzzle. My first tip and recommendation that I think everybody should do is taking your alpha knife and cutting out your vinyl with that before you go in with your jigsaw. It made the lines way more crisp, I found, and again, it's just not tearing apart your vinyl. Tip number 2 is to go full speed when you are cutting the vinyl. If you go slower, it makes it way choppier and you're not getting those clean lines. If you're too scared to go full speed, I would recommend getting a sample piece. So if you think back to the beginning of my video, I had those extra white vinyl pieces that I had cut off the sign. I stuck those on a piece of styrofoam, wrote my name on it, and then tested a few different cuts with my jigsaw just to practice a little bit and see what worked best. Going the fastest setting on your jigsaw worked by far the best. My last tip is to ensure that you're holding your jigsaw at a 90-degree angle, so you're holding it as straight as you possibly can, because as soon as you start leaning one direction or the other, it's going to reflect in your styrofoam. It's going to look almost like a little slanted hill. It's not a huge deal. The pieces will still fit together, but you want to try and stay as straight as you can while cutting. Okay, we have our last puzzle that we have to cut. Let's draw out the line. So then we're going to cut it with an alpha knife and then cut it with our jigsaw. The last one, people, we're almost done. I feel like I'm throwing so many facts at you guys. I hope I'm not overwhelming you, because in all honesty, this is one of the easier DIY projects that I've done. So don't be intimidated by all the steps and all the facts. I'm just trying to give you information overload so that you have no questions when you're doing this project on your own. Obviously, if you feel like you still have a question after watching this video, put it in the comments and I will do my best to answer. All the pieces are cut. I do have to make some minor repairs, so I'm going to go in with Mod Podge. So for example, here it's lifting quite a bit. I'm going to go in, put some Mod Podge on so that it's stuck there. Now I'm just going to build the frame to hold these puzzles. So this is what you saw me cut earlier, is that. And these pieces here are literally just extra that I cut off. So I'm going to take some PL 300, glue it here, put some skewers through it to dry overnight, and we'll do the same on both sides. Those small styrofoam pieces you're seeing there, If you remember, I told you to keep your styrofoam when you cut out your puzzle to begin with. That is what that styrofoam is from. It is from me cutting the oval of our puzzle. These pieces are going to act as the legs holding up the base that the puzzle is being built on. It's going to prevent your puzzle from falling backwards when it's being built up vertically. It's essentially a stand. And that's why I love this DIY, because you don't have to do any crazy measurements, anything like that. You're literally just taking leftover pieces that you already cut, not making any changes to them at all. All you're doing here is putting the PL 300 glue on the edge of your styrofoam there, and then you're taking your leg, which is just your leftover styrofoam from before, you're pressing it on there. And instead of using clamps for this, because not everybody has clamps, I just picked up some kebab sticks from Dollarama, and that's what I'm going to use as my clamp. So I'm going to push the kebab stick through the styrofoam, and it's going to hold it firmly in place overnight so that glue can set. And I'm not planning on taking the kebab sticks out. I think it's going to be a good way to just make sure the structure is extra strong for these puzzles. Now this is setting upright, and I'm just going to put these skewers in here. They're going to act like a clamp, and it's just going to keep the pieces together, and then I'll just cut the excess skewers off and leave it in there. And I literally got these from the dollar store, these skewers. You don't need to spend a ton of money on this. And then we're just gonna let this dry for 24 hours. It's the next day, and I realized I did not do a great job showing you guys what the base actually looks like. So this longer piece is the piece that we trace the oval with, and then we cut that out. And then the legs behind are just that extra piece from the very beginning of this project. It doesn't look pretty yet, but we're gonna clean it up better the further we go with this project. To help support the puzzle to stay upright, I am gonna glue the extra piece that came from me cutting this template. So I'm going to glue this to the back so the puzzle has support to stand up. So I marked out my lines because it needs to be trimmed to fit in there. So we're going to cut that, and then we're going to glue it behind here. But before we even glue it to our main structure, we're going to glue another leg on the back so that it has support and it doesn't fall backwards. And again, this is just the extra piece left over from when you cut the oval out to begin with, and then you're going to secure it with some more kebab sticks as well. Because I want these puzzles to be built vertically no matter what it takes, and just to be safe, I decided to cut out little foam spacers, and these spacers are going to go between the back piece that's going to help support the puzzle when we build it vertically, and it's attaching to that front base piece that we just finished creating. I wanted to make these spacers because I knew that the puzzles would need to lean slightly towards that back plate to be able to stay vertical, so that's why I did the little spacers here. And all I did to secure the front plate to the spacer to the back plate was putting PL 300 on either side of that spacer, and then just sticking a kebab stick through all three pieces. And if you missed it, that back half oval piece got secured to the main structure by putting PL 300 on either end of that half oval, and then I stuck it to the legs of that base structure we made, and I just secured it in place again with kebab sticks going through all the styrofoam. And that is how I made the base for our puzzle. I was going to go in and paint the entire base a different color, but I ran out of time. You know what? At the end of the day, the white looked really good in the end. As for the graphic, my brother-in-law ended up designing it for me, and it needs to be in a vector format. The reason it has to be in a vector format is because when it gets blown up for a sign, it's going to be really pixely unless it's a vector. And that is how I made these Survivor Monopoly puzzles. If you found this video helpful and you love this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I'm always sharing all the new projects I'm working on. See you next time.